Next curve.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Next Curve's Rethink webcast series on security and trust, where we talk about the hot topics in the world of technology, privacy, and trust. And of course, all of it needs to matter because that's all we like to focus on. And today we'll be talking about safe AI. What does it mean and what is it made of? And of course, as always, I'm joined by Debbie Reynolds, the data diva of Debbie Reynolds Consulting LLC. How are you doing, diva?
Oh, thank you, Leonard. I'm happy to be here as always. Happy to chat.
You know, I love doing that intro. I don't know, it's just so fun.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it's just great to have you. And I'm really glad that we're doing this series because it's so important. And we're going to talk about safe AI. And it was weird because as we were thinking about this topic, Debbie kind of assumed that everybody knows what safe AI is. And I had to remind her the reason why she is around is to tell people things that she thinks are obvious, but are not obvious to everyone else. And, you know, privacy, trust, all the stuff is quite honestly, it's a new thing. It is, seriously. Everybody's been fixated on security and cybersecurity and stuff like that. But, you know, increasingly, the topic of privacy and trust have become much more important. And you know what? For me, it's just an honor to have Debbie on because she has really been delving into this topic for years, right? So this is not a new thing for her. So Debbie, I want to talk to you about safe AI. Okay. And I know that it's a bit of a nebulous term, but I think we're going to probably do two things here. Number one, try to put some form around that. And then number two, map some of the key themes and topics that you work on every day to this concept of safe AI that we may quite honestly be inventing on this episode.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. So safe AI, that's a big topic. So part of making AI safe is understanding what AI you're using, what it can do, or what it should not be doing, right? So in my view, AI should be a helper to humans. It's not a replacement for humans. So if you're having AI systems try to make judgments, right, that's not what AI is made for. You know, it's not human. It does not have a brain. It's not sentient. Won't be sentient for I don't think it ever will be sentient. But we are sentient humans, and we need to make better judgments about how we use AI. So I think of AI as a low-level task helper to people. And if you use it in those ways, it can really help, especially in like productivity and different things like that. So I think of AI as being able to help in anything that's very repetitive, that has to be done over and over. That can definitely help turbocharge someone's productivity and what they're doing. What I'm concerned about is people trying to use AI think it's magic and then try to use it for stuff that, that should be done by humans. So there was a case, for example, where these nurses in the hospital, they had these AI systems that were supposed to be helping them with decision making about patients. And based on their experience, there were things they disagreed with that the AI, their hospital like deferred to AI. It's like, wait a minute, like I've been doing this for 30 years. I know a lot about humans. Why do I have to fight with AI about what I feel that this person's care needs to be? And so if we abdicate our human responsibility to AI, we're going to be in deep trouble because it's not really for that. It can't do that, right? So the example I use a lot is like, you as a human know that chocolate chips don't go into a chicken salad, right?
Really?
So yeah. So you didn't learn that in school. No one told you that, right? But you over the years, you put things together and you just wouldn't do that, right? Because you sort of know. So AI doesn't know anything until you tell it things, right? So we're thinking very narrow about how an AI tool works, but it will do whatever you tell it to do over and over again, regardless of these other things, because it's not human. So if it's not human, can't make judgments like a human, can't think like a human because it doesn't have a brain. It may be able to do things faster. It may be able to do certain things
Right.
cheaper, may be able to help humans. But as soon as you have a AI literally in the driver's seat, we're like in trouble. And so the literal thing that happened, I don't know, maybe last year or the year before, where there were some guys who were in a Tesla and they got in the back seat and they let it drive around and it hit a tree and like thing blew up and they died, right? Like that's like an example of how not to use AI.
Actually,
Okay.
yeah, that's a very, very good. And you're making a great point, because there's one thing to have intelligence. It's another thing to automate with intelligence, which is, and the ultimate goal of that is to have an autonomous function or a system, right? But I'll tell you, one of the things that I think is an absolute must for everyone to take away from what you just explained to the audience is that you need to understand AI, what it does, what it can do, what it can't do. And only then can you start to understand what it's good for. And I will tell you right now, 99% of the people out there talking about AI have not done that first step. And even more who are using the tools have not done that. So I think they're at that. And so if you've never done that homework, you think it's magic, is really what it boils down to. And I think we've talked about this before, on the show, as well as, or in this series, as well as outside of the series, that, it's not the technology that's frightening. It's the trust that people impart on the technology that is frightening. And oftentimes, if you haven't done the homework, you're going to likely use the tool to some form of detriment. And I think the whole idea of safe AI has a number of dimensions to it that I'll point out, based on what you just shared with us. And number one, I think it's the idea of, and we're hearing it more and more. And actually, on this show, we talked about how in a few months, we're not going to be talking about generative AI as much as responsible AI. And that is actually becoming a thing. You hear talk about responsible AI everywhere now, but it's really about, do you understand the technology, what it's good for, and can you use it responsibly? And so this is not about ethical AI, whether or not the AI itself has been designed, trained to be unbiased, inclusive, and all these other attributes that we would like these AIs to have as a system or application. This is about people and how they use the technology and for what purpose, right? And if the purpose is, like you were saying, productivity, well, is the application that you're using, let's say all these generative AIs, that applications that are coming out of the woodworks, does it actually work? And can it deliver on the promises that the company is that developed the thing and is actually offering it to people? Can it deliver to those promises and expectations? But you're absolutely right. This is not this is a stochastic system. It's does not have judgment. It can create a impression that it has judgment, but it doesn't. It just simply can't, because that is not what the technology does. And so for anyone who is out there saying, look, this can be it can make decisions, good decisions, need to really go back and do that first step of, getting on a safe AI path. And ultimately, I think with safe AI, you have the responsible AI, and then once you do that, there's this broader, idea of like what you've mentioned several times, the data, right? How is it being used? How is it being processed as you engage with it? And does anyone know what the black box is doing? Right? Or the guys the folks who are training and managing that black box, what are they doing with it? And how are they engineering it over time to, influence its outputs? So then you get into this whole realm of, confidential AI, secure AI, all these other concepts that you talk about all the time. So that's kind of like what I think is a part of this whole fabric of quote unquote safe AI. If we were to coin it on the fly like we're doing right now.
Yeah. Also, I think that there have been a lot of calls around, the existential threat of AI and stuff like that. The threat is here and the threat is now. So, I agree. I give you two examples. One, a guy in Chicago was arrested and was in jail for a year, accused of something that he didn't do based on the output of an AI facial recognition system. They say he looked like they had a shadowy, dark night picture of his face from the side that they were trying to compare to a like DMV photo, which is in good light front facing. We all know that is not accurate, especially on people of color. It's typically so. But he spent a year in jail until they figured out that, oh, well, this is not accurate or whatever. So, to someone like him, the threat to AI is not existential at all. Someone like me, who Black women are, exponentially more misidentified in AI systems than anyone else. So I'm very concerned about this. And it isn't a future threat, it's definitely a current threat based on people using these systems. So there was another guy, he was arrested. They said that he stole something from some store. He had never been to that store, wasn't anywhere near that store. The judge actually said, well, they compared the picture they pulled up from the AI system to him. And he's like, this is actually not the same person. You know what I'm saying? But what if he didn't think that? You know what I'm saying? And so this guy will be doing time right now. And then, stuff, just weird things like, I've heard, and I think it's going to be a huge issue in credit worthiness and stuff, because these credit agencies have been using inferences for many years that were not transparent. So what AI regulation is trying to do is bring more transparency there. And so we're going to start to see stuff like, and this is not, I'm not making this up. So someone who has an iPhone is considered more credit worthy than someone with Android.
Yeah.
I'm not lying about this.
Yeah.
So what type of inferences the AI is creating that you would never know about, especially if it causes harm to you?
Right. Yeah. And I think this just all goes back to the dangers of trusting technology that doesn't do what you think it can do. And right. I mean, and
that's right.
I recently had a conversation with a AI scientist, and I thought it was hilarious. He pointed out, look, you know what, where it becomes dangerous is when people trust these things because they're lazy.
Totally.
And convenience. For instance, in the scenario that you talked about where the gentleman was misidentified by the AI, and he actually went to jail and suffered for it. It's because the law enforcement agency trusted a technology that is not trustworthy, and they succumb to the convenience of being able to stick an instance of a crime to an identity, which is probably a metric that they're measured by. And so it's this convenience factor that these tools enable, and this misguided trust that leads to detriment. And I mean, it's weird. We started off this topic with this idea of safe AI, and I think we've really arrived at a super interesting framework here. Because the detrimental side of AI, a lot of people they opine about it, they hypothesize about it, but there's no real architecture for understanding what that could look like. But wow.
What people don't understand is that, I say that we're entering the it sucks to be you part of human existence, because when you're using these AI tools, the responsibility falls on your shoulders. So you can't say, ChatGPT told me to do this. It's like, no, you as a human have to look at what you've gotten and you have to make a judgment. So recently there was a big case in the news about a lawyer who used ChatGPT to do a file in the court, and then cited all these fake made up cases. And so he was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought these were correct, but your human judgment should tell you that you need to actually read cases. You're charging hundreds of dollars an hour to someone for a prompt that you got for $20 a month. That doesn't go. You know what I'm saying? So I think the responsibility for people, if you want to use these tools, the responsibility rests on the person who uses it. Also, privacy risk becomes heightened because you have more data going into these systems, and probably more inferences and more things that are being spit out there that are troubling. So there's I think a guy, a professor, someone, I think he was a notable person, maybe he's a journalist or something. ChatGPT said that he had done some crime, and so people were publishing this in articles, so that created a huge detrimental reputational harm for him, and he's suing ChatGPT, and he's like, "Hey, how did you all infer that I did this crime?" And I'm sure what's going to come out is well, you live in a zip code where people do crimes like this, so that's what we think.
Yeah. And I think one of the big things that's missing here is governance, and because you've brought up judgment several times here, but there needs to be accountability. We shouldn't absolve ourselves, and ultimately we can't, right, of being accountable for our judgment, human judgment, and lack thereof, right? And part of that judgment is, do we trust AI and AI tools and the people who create the AI tools, who provide the services, who collect the data? And what is it that we, in our own judgment, decide to forfeit and accommodate for whatever convenience and facility that we think we're getting from these tools? And I think that is probably the root and the foundation of safe AI.
Yeah. And plus, it's how you use it, right? So let's say you ask AI to give you ingredients to a recipe for chicken salad, and it puts chocolate chips in it, right? So it may taste bad, you may not like it, right? But you're not harmed there, right? Yeah. But if AI says you did a crime, that's the problem. That's a problem if the people who are making these judgments are advocating their human responsibility to actually check and verify that.
Well, some people might think that putting chocolate chips in a chicken salad is a crime. So, but anyway, exactly. But hey, look, you know what? I think we cracked the safe AI nut. We can actually now go write about it, and maybe even write a white paper about it. But hey, thank you so much, Debbie. This has been a fantastic episode. I think it's been a really mind-blowing one in our series. But why don't you take a moment here, of course, to help our audience understand how they can engage with you, all your wonderful content, and have a consistent engagement with Debbie Reynolds.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Leonard, as always. So I have a website called DebbieReynoldsConsulting.com. I have a lot of cool videos about technology and data privacy issues. I'm on LinkedIn, so just type in Data Diva Debbie Reynolds, and my name will pop right up. You can connect with me there. I also have a newsletter called the Data Privacy Advantage that comes out every month on LinkedIn and on my website.
Okay, wonderful. And so, to our audience, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next installment. But remember, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And probably the easiest thing to do is to just subscribe to our research portal, the Next Curve research portal at www.next-curve.com. It's the one-stop shop for all Next Curve stuff, research, content, media, and you'll be notified when we publish new content and insights. So until next time, take care and remember to stay healthy.
Thank you.